Hey everyone, today I want to talk about the upcoming Stephen King adaptations. I am going to be covering the films and television shows, so there won't be any short films or sort of indie projects included in this list. Maybe that's an idea for another video another day, but right now I want to start with the films. So in 2022 we have Salem's Lot and probably Firestarter. I know Firestarter just announced that it is going to be R-rated just like the original one, and we know that Salem's Lot is for sure coming in 2022, or at least that's what it's listed as at the moment. So those are sort of the two big ones right now, but there's a slew of others that have already been optioned, and whether or not we see them, that's another story. But some of the other big ones that I'm personally looking forward to, and maybe not looking forward to, are ones that are definitely going to be remakes of things we've already seen adapted, like the Tommyknockers, which I've made it no secret that it's my least favorite King book, but because I host a Stephen King podcast called Chat Cemetery, I'm going to be watching all of these regardless of how excited I am for them or not, so it'll be interesting to see if I end up liking that one more, because I didn't care for the TV adaptation either, so that one is one that I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on, see what news comes out for that in the future. And there are even more. You have Brian Fuller's name attached to Christine. There's another Dark Half movie that is supposedly in the works. And look, John Carpenter's Christine is a movie that I really, really enjoyed. It's kind of like when The Shining got a TV remake. Even though I enjoy what Mick Garris does with Stephen King adaptations, it was like, yes, Kubrick's wasn't the most accurate to the source material, but you're still trying to follow up Kubrick. So there's a lot that might be at stake with Christine in particular, because I also love Brian Fuller's work. So I know that's one that I have my eyes on, and I am ready to see that one whenever it comes out. If it comes out, who knows? A lot of this stuff is not necessarily speculation because they have been optioned, but some of these have just been talked about for so long that it's hard to believe some of them are ever going to come out. But there are some others that I want to mention here, and I'm just going to run through the whole list that I have been able to find. You have things like The Breathing Method, The Boogeyman, which I believe The Boogeyman someone did a short film of back in the 80s, I want to say, so I can't speak to the quality of that. I haven't watched it, but I know that's something that has also technically been done before. This one is probably the least popular of King's works that is set to be adapted, and that is The Little Green God of Agony, which is a webcomic that he wrote. And I don't even know if a lot of people who are casual fans of Stephen King know that it exists, so that definitely seems like it'll be one more for the hardcore fans, kind of like myself, and, anyone who probably listens to my podcast or podcasts like The Losers Club and Kingcast and a ton of others. So for the King fanatics, that's probably going to be one we're all going to watch. But I don't know if that's you necessarily. So that one is kind of like oh, that's an interesting choice. The ones that I am most intrigued by, though, are From a Buick 8 and The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. The first one felt like something that when I read it, I wasn't sure how it would be adapted. And I'll throw The Long Walk in that category too, because there's a lot of walking in The Long Walk. And it's not to say that movies that take place in a single location can't be done, or mostly in a single location can't be done, because Mike Flanagan proved that, especially with Stephen King properties, you can do that, because I really enjoyed Gerald's Game. It's not necessarily an enjoyable film per se. It's, pretty tense the whole time. And with The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, I feel like this one's been talked about for a while now, and I'm really, really hoping it gets off the ground and we get to see it, because that's one of his stories that I think caught me by surprise with how much I enjoyed it, especially on a reread. It was one of the first King things I had read along with Cell, and that's not exactly a great starting point. So I think for me, I was just really, really looking forward to seeing that one get adapted, because it was one of the first things I had read, and upon rereading it, I was like, oh yeah, this could be a fun adaptation. So I hope we do get to see that one. There are some others like Mile 81, Throttle, Mr. Harrigan's Phone, Rest Stop, Elevation. There are quite a few that are sort of TBD. We don't really know what's going on with them. Mike Flanagan's name was attached to Revival, but it no longer is, which is a bummer because I've really enjoyed his stuff, especially his King adaptations and all of the stuff he's done for Netflix. Frankly, I have recently watched Midnight Mass and really enjoyed that. But the last one for the film list, at least, is The Running Man, which, if you have seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger Running Man, you know it's not exactly like the story, if you've also read the story, obviously, but it was so wild that even though it's not a fantastic movie, it's really enjoyable, kind of in the same way that Maximum Overdrive is for me. It's like, no, this isn't good, but you're sure to have a fun time with it if you just kind of let go of the fact that you're not going to be watching a masterpiece or something like that. So that rounds out the films that are upcoming or not, depending on, like I said, if they get made. But the TV list is much, much shorter. I think it's only about a third the length of the list of films that are in the works. And I know that The Institute got optioned as soon as the book came out. It was like the same day the book dropped, they announced that. And I was like, that was fast. You didn't even wait to see what people really thought of the book other than, critics who read it, but as far as the fans go. So that one will hopefully come to fruition because I think that book had a good blend of, like Firestarter and Carrie, and I love the kid characters that King writes. There are a couple of interesting ones for TV though, like The Jaunt and The 10 O'Clock People, because those aren't ones that I necessarily saw as being something you would adapt into a TV show. So it'll be very, very similar to the way they did Chapelwaite, I imagine, although Chapelwaite was written as letters between characters, so they had even a little more to do because they had to fill out all of Preacher's corners with these characters, and I think they did a fairly good job with putting us in that time period, but I wasn't huge on the character development just because the story doesn't really lend itself to that necessarily outside of the two characters who are writing letters back and forth. So with The Jaunt and the 10 O'Clock People, they might have to get creative like they did with Chapelwaite to, really extend that story and sort of get people invested. And I'm always wary of TV shows after having watched The Dead Zone and Under the Dome, so I'm hoping they keep a lot of these to, one season, a limited series, or maybe a second season if it's something like The Institute where they can kind of expand on it in a different way and show a different set of kids at the Institute before the set in the book gets there or something. I don't know how that will all work, but yeah, anytime a short story or novella is getting adapted into a TV series, I'm like, I don't know if that's the right move, but we'll see. I'll be watching it anyway. The one that I'm probably not looking forward to, though, is Sleeping Beauties, because I saw how big that book was, and I saw that he wrote it with his son Owen, and I was really, really hoping I would like it, and I did not, to say the least. And it's not that it was as bad as Cell, for instance, but I think it just lacked, again, that character work that I really expect from King, and I probably rated that and Cell both a 2 out of 5, which maybe that was a little generous for Cell, but that aside, I'll still be watching the show. I hope maybe that making that into a TV show, because the book is so long, like Under the Dome, they can do more character work and hopefully not stray as far from the story as the Under the Dome TV show is, because by season 3 of Under the Dome, it's not even recognizable as an adaptation of the book. So I hope it doesn't suffer the same fate as that show, let's put it that way. There are 2 more on the list that I want to talk to before we close out with the last one, and the next 2 are Revelations, which that one I don't really have too many thoughts about, but Joyland I am looking forward to if that happens, because I really loved King's hard case crime novels. I would say if I had to rank the 3 hard case crime books from King, it would be later Joyland and then The Colorado Kid. So I liked all of them a lot, but Colorado Kid less so than the other two. And I think you could do a lot of fun visual stuff with Joyland because it takes place at this sort of amusement park, and there's a ton they can do there. But last and certainly not least, is the Talisman. This is one of those ones that I feel like has been talked about forever, and we know that there was a Dark Tower show that was supposed to come out on Amazon. They released the pilot to the press, and some critics got to take a look at it. I was not one of them because I was not doing a Stephen King podcast at the time, unfortunately. So I have not seen that, but I know the Talisman is kind of like the Dark Tower, where it's been in production hell, I guess, for quite a while, and they're still trying to figure out how to do that. And honestly, this one I'm not confident is ever going to come out. I would love to be proven wrong, though. So that wraps up everything that is optioned and on the slate for upcoming Stephen King adaptations. We will for sure see Salem's Lot and Firestarter, though, so be sure to check out those films when they come out if those interest you. And I think there's going to be something for every King fan out of this list, should we get to see everything. And I'll be watching all of it, so check out my podcast, Chat Cemetery, if you want to keep up on all things Stephen King. I am actually getting very close to being caught up. I will be caught up next week when I drop the Chapelwaite episode, and then I will be eagerly awaiting Gwendy's final task. So that is all I have for you all today. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.